there were some really distressing examples in the report of, for example, one mother who gave birth and the doctors and nurses did CPR on her baby for half an hour or so and then declared the baby dead. And this baby was recorded as stillborn. And she's saying, well, if my baby died in the womb, why were you doing CPR for half an hour? But it meant that she couldn't then have an inquest. And so she felt she never got clear answers about the circumstances.
A report into maternity failings in the NHS has found that hospitals are incentivised to record babies as stillborn in order to avoid an inquest. The law forbids coroners from looking into stillbirths. This means that families whose babies had signs of life may have been wrongly told they were born dead, and obviously that raises the risk of errors being covered up. This is just one of the facts revealed by Baroness Amos's review, a review that spoke to 12 NHS trusts across the country and to hundreds of families who claim they've been failed by maternity services. Her report also warned of structural racism and discrimination, of a lack of kindness and compassion, and of a reluctance for hospitals to admit mistakes. The health editor at The Times, Eleanor Hayward, has been writing about this, and she joins me now. Thank you very much indeed, Eleanor, for doing this. Can you tell us about this review, how it came about and what it is?
This was ordered by Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, last summer as a rapid national investigation into where maternity care is going wrong. It follows obviously a string of other investigations and scandals over the past decade, but Baroness Amos has focused on 12 poorly performing NHS trusts, and these are her interim findings. It's not the final report. There weren't actually any recommendations in it, but it's kind of summarising some of the key themes where things are going wrong.
This idea that hospitals are incentivised to record babies as stillborn in order to avoid an inquest will strike people as shocking, but it'll also be a bit puzzling. So why are stillborn births not subject to an inquest?
So at the moment, under the law, then an inquest can only be held if if there's been sort of life recorded. So if a baby has been born alive and then dies, whether that's an hour later or a few days later, then an inquest can be held. The circumstances of the death will be investigated. But if a baby is stillborn, which is when they die inside the womb, then legally there can't be an inquest. So that means, there were some really distressing examples in the report of, for example, one mother who gave birth and the doctors and nurses did CPR on her baby for half an hour or so and then declared the baby dead. And this baby was recorded as stillborn. And she's saying, well, if my baby died in the womb, why were you doing CPR for half an hour? But it meant that she couldn't then have an inquest. And so she felt she never got clear answers about the circumstances.
Does Baroness Amos conclude that this was in order to cover up errors, or does she merely say there's a chance that it was, or it's an unsafe practice?
Yeah, I think it's more, it feeds into a culture of a lack of transparency where time and time again kind of parents are left without answers as to where it went wrong, and they might struggle to get an inquest, other parents struggle to get the notes, doctors and nurses and hospital management just aren't open, they're not transparent, and then that prevents them learning from mistakes, and so the cycle of kind of harm and failure just keeps repeating itself.
Overall, is she concluding that our maternity services are something to be worried about? Does she conclude that's only the case in these 12 poor performing trusts, or more generally, or is it more that she's finding certain specific bad practices, and if we eliminated that, the fundamental position would be robust?
I think it's quite clear that it's kind of a structural issue across the whole NHS. Not all maternity services are failing. Some still do excellent care, but a lot of the problems are very deep rooted. Things like a lack of investment in infrastructure that means, in one instance, then it literally rains on the maternity ward because the roof is leaking, and then a culture as well of racism, discrimination that's consistent, where women who are Black or Asian have worse outcomes than white women, and a cultural sort of failure to listen to women, I think, happens across the NHS quite broadly.
What about this lack of kindness and compassion? Is that specifically about the way of dealing with women? Is that related to that accusation or to that observation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just really quite simple things. Like in the report, there was one woman who was told, oh, you're too fat, or just off the cuff remarks by doctors. Often when women are at a very vulnerable point in their life, just things aren't being explained in a kind way, and it adds to this another theme of the report, which is that often women end up blaming themselves when things go wrong because they think they're to blame. They think maybe their baby's death is their fault because the doctors or the hospitals don't give them the true answers.
What about the families that have been involved in disasters that have overtaken them that relate to this report? And I've obviously been looking forward to hearing its outcomes, but they haven't all uniformly welcomed the creation of this report or the findings.
No, I think the families are completely understandably just fed up of an endless cycle of reviews that don't achieve any change. And so a lot of families want a full public statutory inquiry. They think that's got more power to actually change things. I mean, one of the most sort of striking facts in the report is that there have been 750 recommendations made to the NHS over the past decade to improve maternity care, yet things are getting worse. So, if this cycle of reviews and investigations, so far they've not achieved anything, really. I mean, we keep hearing how bad maternity care is, and this is just another report telling us how bad maternity care is. I mean, it didn't issue any recommendations yesterday. It just told us how bad maternity care is. So is it actually achieving anything? Is it a bit of a waste of time? That's one thing critics are saying.
I guess if we understood how Wes Streeting was likely to react to this, we'd understand it. Is it, as he basically ordered this report, in order to park the issue or in order to allow him to drive the issue forward? What's your sense about how seriously he's taking it?
I think he is taking it seriously. I mean, he's committed to creating a task force that will then form a plan. But again, that's another delay in a way. So you've got this report that's Labour have been in power for a year and a half now. It's going to publish in the summer. Then there'll be a task force. Then there'll be a plan. And it's sort of like that's several years since they were elected. I do think, we've known for more than a decade about the disaster going on in maternity care. Why couldn't he have been elected and implemented some quite simple changes straight away?